Okay, Baltimore City Council, Ways and Means Committee. We're back in session for City Council Ordinance 22-0235, Ordinance of Estimates for the fiscal year ending June 20, 2023. I'm Eric Costello, Councilman from the 11th District, Chair of the committee. I'm joined to my right, my near right, by Councilwoman Odette Ramos, Council Vice President Sharon Green Middleton, 6th District, member of the committee. Councilman Mark Conway, 4th District, and Councilman Tony Glover, 13th District. On behalf of Mayor Brandon Scott is Natasha Mehew, Nina Themlis, and Sophia G. On behalf of Council President Nick Mosby is Nate Poole and Matt Stegman. To my immediate right is Marguerite Curran, staff to the committee. We are here for Office of Emergency Management, which, as we all know, resides within the Baltimore City Fire Department. Just want to say that for our folks at home who are watching. When you are testifying, please make a fist, one hand away from the microphone. If you don't do that, the folks from home can't hear. Inevitably, someone in this room is going to screw up tonight, and I am going to politely interrupt you. Don't be worried. It's going to happen a second and a third time, and it's happened with every single agency. So when you're speaking, you are welcome to take your mask off. Chief Ford, I believe we have, are you going to be leading this portion, or is Chief Wallace? You mean all of OEM, Chief Wallace will be, and then you'll be doing, yep. Okay. So we're going to do OEM, and then we're going to go into a brief 3 to 5 minute recess, and then we'll pick back up for the nightcap, which is fire department. Chief Jay Wallace, the floor is yours, and you have one slide, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Chief, I'm going to ask you to keep it to, we've also been joined by Councilman Robert Soaks, 12th District member of the committee. Chief, I'm going to ask you to keep your presentation to about 10 minutes. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes, sir. It'll
Outstanding.
Be
and one last thing, Chief, before you get started, I'd like for you to first and last name as well as position title of all of your personnel that are with you this evening, specifically just for OEM. I know we got other fire folks trickling in as we get closer. Thank you.
Yes, sir, and thank you, sir. Good evening, Deputy Chief Wallace, Baltimore City Fire Department. I'm currently the Director of the Office of Emergency Management. To my right is Miss Michelle Smith, who is the Preparedness Section Chief for the Office of Emergency Management. And to my left is Mr. Edmund Good, who is the Finance Section Chief for the Office of Emergency Management. I draw your attention to the slide. I'm going to be very brief with the content that's contained within the slide. So the Office of Emergency Management prepares the city for major emergencies such as hurricanes, power outages, hazardous materials incidents, and acts of terrorism, just as a few examples. Our service does manage interagency and private sector programs to prevent, mitigate against, and plan for all hazards events. So we are in all hazards service within the fire department. Our service also includes a program which provides 24/7 field response and citywide coordination support for incidents and events that are high risk, prolonged, widespread, and/or complex. For example, in 2020, the service we provided basically around the clock was support services and management support for the COVID-19 response. As an entity, we are responsible for managing all the services I just mentioned. Another couple of things I'd like to highlight are some of our major items, our major budget items, as we are very much involved in grant management for multiple city agencies. The Urban Area Security Initiative grant, for example, was procured and used by our department as well as the Baltimore Police Department to provide 6 mobile license plate readers for their department, as well as 2 cameras in the Mondawmin Mall area for City Watch purposes. In addition, one other major grant that we do manage is known as the State Homeland Security Program Grant, which assisted BSIT with the acquisition of sensor hardware as well as network security for Baltimore City Information Technology networks to assist in defense against malware And we also purchased active shooter as well as mobile field force equipment for the police department. And with that, Mr. Chair, my opening is complete.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Chief Wallace, I want to take a moment to thank you for your hard work and leadership running the Office of Emergency Management. I've had an opportunity to work with you in a number of capacities over the past few years, especially during the pandemic. And your leadership has been nothing short of excellent. You're a model public servant, and we are very lucky to have you in Baltimore City. Chief Ford, one agency request, I would say just promote him to chief. I have just always referred to him as chief. I didn't know he was a deputy chief. So,
still a chief.
Well, just promote him again, but keep him in that position. I appreciate it. We've also been joined by Councilman Ryan Dorsey, 3rd District, member of the committee. And we're going to start off with Council Vice President Sharon Green Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you for all the work that you continue to do in the city. You have, your office is always very responsive. You send us email alerts. You just really keep us in the loop with everything, all the way down to the weather reports. So thank you. You and your team just continue to do the work you need, and we are here to help in any way we can to help keep your department a success.
Thank you, ma'am.
Chief, I do have one quick question. Did Chief Ford, this is for you, and make sure you use the mic, sir. Did fire department make any ARPA requests on behalf of OEM?
Yes, but OEM did it unilaterally. Although I did have approval and went through the process with them, we did do it, yes.
All right, so I'll take that question back over to Chief Wallace. Chief, can you tell me about the ARPA requests that your sub-agency made?
Yes, sir, and thank you for the question. The Office of Emergency Management did make requests for ARPA funding, specifically requesting assistance to acquire additional planners for the performance period of the grant itself. Those planners were going to be programmed into different operations inside of OEM. First and foremost, 2 of those planners were going to be used to assist with the development of the continuity of operations plan and the continued initiative citywide. An additional planner was going to be assigned to my finance section chief to assist with the process of financial recovery for the city as we work as part of the committee with EY. And then finally, the last one was going to be, I like to call it a planner at large that would have assisted our COVID safety czar as well as my logistics section chief with the citywide supply and stock initiative.
Thank you. Do you, I don't expect you to know this, but do you happen to have the proposal ID by any chance? It would be a 3-digit number that the ARPA office uses to track it.
Sir, I do not.
I'm having trouble finding it in the document that was sent to the city council. Who do we got back there? Sophia. One request for the agency. I guess this can go to fire. I just want to know which ARPA request this was, and I'd like a copy of that, what was submitted to the ARPA office on behalf of just the one for OEM. I'll get to the fire stuff later. Thank you. And we've been joined by City Administrator Chris Shorter. Councilman Stokes.
First, I want to thank the fire department for letting me know exactly what's going on, especially fires and our firefighters being in danger. I almost feel like I'm a firefighter. I just don't have the uniform because I'm always at fires now. So I'm learning more. But Chief, I want to talk to you about the COOP program. Can you kind of explain that, where that is now, so we can make sure that get finish, because that's important here in Baltimore City.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman. So just for a little historical perspective, in 2020, we did begin an initiative to revamp the COOP process.
Can you explain not the actual sentiments, COOP, what that means?
Yes, so
might be new for everybody.
COOP is short for Continuity of Operations Plan, which those plans in and of themselves assist agencies or assist government agencies, and in some cases even private partners, with laying out a roadmap for continued service during catastrophic events. So if we had a major power outage in the city and we were unable to open this building, police and fire headquarters, and it required a telework element, within that COOP plan itself, it'll actually lay out, who's going to be where, who does what, and things like that. So it's a bridge, if you will, to continue services. So we did begin to undertake that effort in 2020. At the same time, obviously, we were working a lot of the COVID pandemic. As we moved into 2021, it became apparent to me that this was going to be a lot more work than what we'd initially thought. I was not satisfied with the direction that it was headed, and we searched around. We found what we thought was a very good template to be able to use to move forward. So in July of 2021, I scrubbed the program itself, started back off at ground zero, and we began to rebuild the program. In doing so, we knew there was a training element that was involved. So what we decided to do was to train our personnel exactly the same way that we would train representatives from agencies. Since that time, since July of 2021, we've been able to bring 12 agencies up to fully complete status. And we have some phenomenal COOP plans.
Could you name them agencies as you go along?
Can I name the agencies?
The agencies.
I don't know that I have those
Okay.
agencies. I can name a few of them off my head.
Thank you.
DHCD did a phenomenal job with theirs, as well as Rec and Parks. Health Department has a sound COOP as well, and there's other ones in there. We just received the Office of Equity and Civil Rights today. That's another solid plan that that just came in today. But those are just some of the examples. The remaining agencies, 100% of the remaining agencies do have plans now on file. However, there are varying degrees of draft form. So minus an agency head signature, we consider the plan to be in draft form. There are various degrees of completion, but the plan does continue to move forward.
So you need additional documents? I mean, you said Plan 1 for some agency. Isn't there some other next steps that they need to take so you can complete this whole COOP program?
There are steps, there are additional steps, and I would also add that a continuity of operations process is an ongoing process. This is a process where if personnel change in an agency, particular components of the plan itself need to be revised. If phone numbers change, if an agency omits an activity or adds to themselves different community service activities, that would trigger a small revision, but ultimately a revision to their plan.
Well, this will be a request, Mr. Chair. Can you send a list to this committee to let us know what other agencies that need to kind of step it up so you can move forward with this COOP?
Yes, sir.
Sophia, you got that? Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Glover?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to give kudos to the fire department. As my colleagues mentioned early on, you guys have done a tremendous job with communicating with us and the council. Like Councilman Stokes said, sometimes I feel like I'm a firefighter, getting the information to go out there to help with fires, but you guys have been really, really helpful to us because it allowed us to give information out to our community associations and to community as a whole. So I just want to say, thank you guys for what you do, and thank you for keeping that communication line open with us. And I want to say to continue to keep doing the great work that you guys are doing. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Conway, and then Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any questions, but I just want to also extend my appreciation to OEM and the great work that you guys have been doing, especially during a prolonged pandemic, in partnership with the agencies to make sure that we continue to deliver operations and keep things moving forward. I'm excited to hear that we have revamped the COOP process. I know that's something that we'd struggled with for a while. So I'm really happy to hear that we at least have draft forms for everyone. I agree with Councilman Stokes if there's anything that we can do to add additional pressure on agencies to make sure that those plans remain up to date or that those drafts are completed. I think that'll be important for continuing operations going forward, knowing that any day we could have a new variant that's worse or anything like that, and if those things do happen, we want to be prepared for that. So just to appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a question, but obviously want to give my sincere thanks to Chief Wallace and Michelle Smith and the team. Really have just done an amazing job for our city. Specifically, really it was Chief Wallace who said, wait a second, these residents have had a flood issue for 50 years or more. Let's get this done, and has worked to coordinate not just the response, but also I think we worked together to kick some people into gear to get it done, but also the outreach to the community. We did an outreach event a year ago to just get a sense of where things were, what the community was doing. Obviously, folks, opened their door to our firefighters and told their stories. We did get, 10 new fire alarms in to folks. So in addition to all the work that we've been doing on the flooding. So I just, plus we're ready, if it happens again, which it will sometime in the next couple weeks. We all have our roles to play. We all know what's going on. Everybody's ready to address it. So thank you, Chief Wallace, for all of that. And then, of course, whenever I have an emergency in my district, I just call you first. So I appreciate that very much. I did have a question on your budget. You're getting more people, which is great. It says, well, first, can you tell me what the new folks will be doing?
So we have additional planners that we just took on now. We did add an executive assistant, which was a pre-existing spot, but it was open. She obviously handles the heavy administrative load in support of myself and the deputy directors. The other planners that are onboarded now are supporting, their primary mission is to support the COOP initiative. However, we have put them in a position where they're able to grow as leaders as well. One of those is likely going to be moved very soon into the training and exercise position, which has been vacant for a period of time. What OEM has done is we've taken that on as a group, that particular task itself. But I have someone in mind who I think is well suited for that position. I'm going to make that move and then supplement that position with an additional planner. So, kind of in a nutshell, we've brought them in at a planning level, but we've positioned them where they're able to have a lot of upward mobility, and they've all responded real well. So I think you'll see some of these positions in our org chart will look a little bit different next year.
Thank you. And to BBMR, this, under major operating budget items, it says 6 federal fund positions, but I don't see any federal money in the 2023. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm mixing it up. We don't have state money, but we have federal money. Got it. Sorry, I mix it up in my head. So the increase in the federal money is what's helping with those positions. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. That was all I had on the budget. And again, thank you very much for everything that you do. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
We've also been joined by Councilwoman Felicia Porter, 10th District. Councilwoman Porter.
Thank you. Chief Wallace, I just want to publicly thank you for your work with the coal explosion that we had in the districts. I really appreciate you and your team's work. One of the things that we've talked through is really understanding the enforcement capabilities of OEM versus the Maryland Department of the Environment related to air quality and things of that nature. This is kind of a loaded question. How can we as the council help to leverage some of those enforcement capabilities that we know are needed not only at the municipal level but the state level for your office?
Yes, ma'am. So the department I guess in that arena, if you will, with air quality, that's oftentimes a function of sophisticated meters and collection apparatus, if you will, that it pulls particulate matter out of the air. I guess that's the best way to say it. That is not a function of the department. I'm not aware if there's even a city agency that does that. But with respect to that particular incident in and of itself, afterwards we did receive a lot of questions about capturing that kind of data, and that's just beyond our capability. With regard to enforcement, we're certainly not an enforcement arm by any means. We manage and we help coordinate efforts before and during incidents, but that is really not something that we would be involved in. I think discussions would have to happen with the Maryland Department of the Environment to try to acquire that type of capability in your respective district.
Yeah, and the only reason why I bring that up is because not only does it impact, my district, it impacts like the South Baltimore districts. And what I'm thinking through is really expanding the Baltimore Clean Air Act, which was, sponsored by former Councilman Ed Reisinger, former Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark, where we are in the city beginning to kind of really understand and enforce from a city perspective those air quality metrics that need to happen and that are happening throughout the city. When we're talking about gathering of the data, there are already academic partnerships within District 10 that are gathering that data. My cause and charge for the agency being that you all kind of are on site immediately when something like that happens. If there can be some sort of public reporting metric through, whether it be through your office, through the fire department, whomever, that we begin to share that information out to the community, because we do have people in the community that are interested in those air quality monitorings.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Colleagues, any other questions? Chief Wallace, thank you so much. We are now in recess until 7 p.m. for BCFD. Thank you.